I'm going to say this now because I always kind of forget it at the end. Share, like, and subscribe. Yeah, I'm a voice in the wilderness. It's Lisa Murrell, Lawyer Lisa, and I have some stuff to tell you today. It's censorship part 2. I've been meaning to do this for a while. It's about Bill C-11. So Bill C-11 is purported to be some kind of like CRTC thing that's going to give you more Canadian content. Bet you won't see me, though. So there's a play that I studied in high school. Maybe you did too. It's Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead. It's these two characters that were in the Hamlet play. And I think that's really interesting because it was about corruption, that play, right? Something's foul in the state of Denmark. Well, something's foul in Canada. I'm here to convince you of it, right? And so if you're Rosencrantz and you keep tossing heads, right, every single time, something's wrong. Something's wrong. So in terms of our government behavior, I'm going to say heads or tails, and every single time it's going to come up heads. So in terms of Bill C-11, it's coming up heads, right? It's going to take the internet. It's going to create a body to collate all that information of Canadians on the internet, right? Should that be happening? It's going to take that data and share it to entities without telling you, just that it's going to say it's going to entities. So where's it going? For what purpose? Why are you being watched, right? Big Brother is now here. This thing that we never thought was possible, Big Brother is here, right? And Bill C-11 is going to define everything that's on the internet, like this video. I may call this my free speech, right? But it's not once Bill C-11 defines it as a broadcast. So a broadcast is a privilege and not a right. So therefore, well, I'm as the government coming up heads again, I am not circumscribing your speech. I am, removing a privilege that, well, I can do that now, can't I? Right? So it doesn't matter where you start, right? You're going to come up heads. So maybe you're hook, line, and sinker on the blips, right? But at some point, it's really not a hard stretch or an argument for you to understand that this product is not a blip, right? Not if you have to take it more than once. Not if you have to keep taking it. Not if it stops working after 4 months, 2 months, what's the case, right? It's not a blip. So you're going to come to realize that it's not effective, because there is some ounce of logic still left in you. So once you do that, you realize I'm coming up heads again. They're mandating me to take something that's not effective. It's useless. Coming up heads, right? Then, right, ask yourself if it's truly safe, right? Coming up heads again. So there are documents that were released on March 1st via court order in the U.S. The company that starts with a P that sounds like F argued we didn't need to see it for 75 years. In fact, yeah, they'll consent to the release of those documents. And these are the safety studies in 75 years. Oh, good luck with us really seeing those documents. Judge said no. Those were released March 1st. You didn't see it covered in the CBC. It wasn't on the front page of the Globe and Mail, right? All those institutions that you think are supposed to have your best interest, coming up heads again. Can't find it. Go search it on Google. Can't find it. Coming up heads again. You'll have to go on Lilo, right? You can like and send me your email, and I'll send them to you. Coming up heads again, right? So maybe start there. They're not safe. There are so many peer-reviewed studies. I'd like to get them to you. Coming up heads again, right? Now, censorship. I've been censored from Twitter. Can't go on there and comment or do anything. Post. Can't go on LinkedIn. Can't even log in, right? Coming up heads again. So this is not just a trend that's happening in Canada. It's happening around the world. Coming up heads again, right? Protests are happening everywhere. Marching is happening everywhere. Coming up heads again, right? You were taught to think that one flag meant everybody at that protest were racists, misogynists, didn't believe in science, took up space, What other ways could we malign them? Right? They were Nazis. There was a letter, 14 scientists from Israel, and I have it, where they said, please don't weaponize, right, Nazism against the protesters, because that's what was done, right? So notwithstanding there was this flag, that flag, if you said that one religious zealot who bombed those people represents the whole religion, you'd be discriminating against. But some guy with a flag who had a mask over his face, right, who's on the only street that no other protesters were, but there were hundreds of thousands of protests, him and his little group represent that group, right? Boy, you were hoodwinked, all right? And the fact that you were, but you're logical, right? But you're logical. Or maybe you just like to hate your opponents and you're part of that. You're part of that. Oh, it's left, it's right. I'm left, so they're right. I hate them, so I get to say bad things about them. Great. No, it's coming up heads again, right? They're just the canaries in the coal mine about always tossing heads, right? That's all it was. And what about the Emergency Act? Coming up heads again, right? All the charter challenges, the amount that are, it's the 40th anniversary of the charter, and we have the most amount of charter challenges ever. That means the government is violating, according to some lawyers, your rights. Coming up heads again. And it's always being covered in the press? No, coming up heads again, right? All right, and the CBC having to retract its coverage on the convoy, some of which coverage was used by our government to substantiate their reasons for the enactment of the Emergency Act. So the CBC, who was doing false coverage, not CSIS, is the reason, right? Coming up heads again. FinTrack said they couldn't find any, worrisome activity on the donation. Coming up heads again. They seized bank accounts without a court order. That's chilling. Coming up heads again, right? The Ontario government just passed an Omnibus Bill 100, and in it, right? In it, it has a provision that allows the seizure of your house for protesting without a trial, your car, your driver's license, your ability to house your family, to get a job, to go to your job, to drive there. Coming up heads again. Digital ID is about to be introduced in Canada. Coming up heads again, right? So, I don't know if I mentioned this yet, but in Austria, if you now share banned information on the internet, right? If you share it, it's now criminal offense. They've criminalized it, and the fine is 50,000 euros, which with inflation these days could really not, it could be just a tap on the wrist. Coming up heads again. And Bologna has a social credit system in its wallet. It's this new wallet that's being introduced. And you get points. So for doing good things. So right now that's recycling. Right? Maybe it's going for a jog. I don't know. Right? Maybe it's wearing your mask. Maybe it's bleeping your kids. Right? Maybe it's saying positive things about the government. And what about the corollary of that once you get used to it? Does it mean you're going to be okay with the government taxing you higher when your social credit system score is low when you do videos like this? Or will these videos even get seen? Coming up heads again. So if our Prime Minister says he admires the Chinese government, which he did, and their dictatorship, which he does, and which he said, right? And then we have this kind of coming up heads. Doesn't matter where you start, but you have to start. I want you to share the absolute fuck out of this video before Bill C-11 comes. Doesn't matter where you start. Do you want me to tell you where you end up? Doesn't matter where you start. Do you want to know where you end up? You end up at the WHO pandemic treaty, right? Find out who's behind it. Every time you have problems with your Windows and you're like, oh, fuck, I hate Microsoft. That guy is behind it. He's funded it. WHO pandemic treaty, right? He had a monopoly on, like the word and all that, and right? And now he's going to have a monopoly on what happens and the technological control over it through Bill C-11 coming up heads again, right? And your digital ID on your phone that's tracking what you're doing, if you're searching, right? And the social credit system coming up heads again. And when the WHO treaty is invoked for a pandemic or an emergency, what's an emergency? Is it climate change? Is it the war in Ukraine? Is it when NATO gets in there? What's going to trigger it, right? Guess what happens? We have a world government. And those charter infringements that True doesn't really care about right now, right? Those and free press and all of this won't matter. Why won't it matter? Because the WHO pandemic treaty will prevail over our Constitution and Charter. Oh, wow, coming up heads again. So I want you to share this video. I want you to get out there with your flags, right? I want you to start thinking of your charter as more important than your left-right divide, because that's not what it is. They only want you to think it's left-right. They only want you to think it's whether or not you're bleeped and that person isn't bleeped. That's all the smoke and mirror. The rest of it's all coming up heads, right? Because let's look at this timing, right? We've got the Liberal Singh majority. Ask yourself if Mr. Trudeau had actually been transparent about the programs and bills and philosophy that he was running on, whether he'd get a single vote, right? Like the Iron Curtain is coming down, but they have more control because it's going to be digital control, right? So when is this treaty effective? Right now they're saying it's going to be voted in. They need 130 or 138 countries. They're going to get it, right? Go Le Pen, because Macron will vote for it. What's going on with the EU? Coming up heads again. It will be live and ready with all the steps that are required, digital ID, digital currency, all the rest of it. 2024, that's coming so fast. Guess when our election is? 2025. Coming up heads again. Guess who's really behind this? The WEF. Coming up heads again. Now look up Klaus Schwab and his compliments of owning the Canadian cabinet, right? And owning Justin Trudeau. Coming up heads again. Guess who's else part of the WF? Justin Singh. Freeland. Coming up heads again. Doesn't matter. Once you start tossing that coin and it comes up heads, it really is psychotic and evil. What's going on is psychotic and evil. You don't know where to start in terms of the fight, though, do you? But you've got to fight. It's your future. It's your children's future. So is it write MPs? Does it show up with the flags, right? It's sharing this video, right? I'm a lawyer, 22 years. I have an LLB and LLM, graduated the top third of my class. I have an honors BSc. I have a minor in chemistry. I sued the government in the first SARS case and other cases. I have the ability to distill what's going on and call it, and so many other people do too. This information is available to you. You just have to know where to look while you still can. One of the things that I wonder is if the intent is to subvert your Constitution and subvert your democracy and your leader, if you have any business being our leader. When people say Justin Trudeau must go, right, and you dismiss it because you think they're white supremacist Nazis, maybe they're at different point in time on tossing the coin than you are. It's not a left versus right. It's not a blip or not blipped. It's government control versus the people. Everyone's like, oh, freedoms are at risk. Who do they think they are? They live in such a free country. Welcome to Hamlet. Share, like, subscribe, share. Have a great day.